Good morning readers, it's Tilly here from Tilly's Shelf and welcome to another bookish breakfast. So today we're going to try to do a very brisk wrap up for February. We're going to carry on the wrap up theme that started in January, and maybe this is something that will continue further into the year, I don't know. It's just because Thursdays I haven't been doing the usual just talking about generally everything, I don't think. So I've had some more specific videos on Thursday morning, so I wanted to tell you the other things that I've been reading in this month. But I'm going to have to do it quickly because in 15 minutes I've got to get a bus, so I'm going to try and keep this to 10 minutes. So we shall see how we get on with that. I have quite a poor track record on those matters. So once again, we have my little goals book and we have what I have read in February. You can see there's a couple of things there. It hasn't been a bad month, and the first thing that I finished in February was Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel. So this one I don't need to say very much because I've done numerous videos on this, and I read this thanks to the Cromwellathon read-along that is happening in the run-up to the release of The Mirror and the Light. I am increasingly very, very excited about The Mirror and the Light coming up, even though I have not yet read Bring Up the Bodies. This is the next thing on my TBR. It's quite chunky, but I'm hoping that I can finish it by or on the 4th of March so as to be ready to open The Mirror and the Light as soon as it arrives. Because by the end of it, I did really love Wolf Hall, even though the ending was, as I said in my video, maybe slightly not the kind of ending as I expected, but I'm just really excited to see how this story continues to develop. I think I've missed out on some of the hype because I've not been participating in the Bring Up the Bodies read-along. I'm going to try and catch up with some of the videos on that as I read this. But yeah, there have been interviews with Hilary Mantel, there have been like articles about the books, so it's been great to actually get excited about a book that's being released because I never normally tend to do that. So the next thing that I finished was Egil's Saga by Snorri Sturluson, and I read that for myself as a kind of like an anticipator to Saga Long. I wanted to get myself into the mood for sagas. I read it on Serial Reader, and I believe that it is the saga that Elizabeth Barkan from Bookish North is reading for the second part of Saga Long. So I'm going to save some of my comments for when she posts her videos, and then I can get into the discussion there. But it was not the best saga that I've ever read. It was very, very interesting and very much like the Laxdæla saga, because there are all of these complex characters and storylines surrounding kind of one central story. I think it would work great in some kind of modern adaptation, like a bit like what we recently had with The Witcher on Netflix, but more kind of Viking-y. I just think I would love to see that kind of like saga brought to life kind of thing, and have all of the minor characters being given a bit more of a voice, which you could do if you adapted these things. So the next book that I finished was, this was an interesting one, A Grief Observed by C.S. Lewis, which is non-fiction, and it's more of like an essay than a book. It's a very, very short thing that he wrote while he was recovering from the death of his wife, I believe his second wife, who in the text of A Grief Observes he refers to as H, but I don't think that was actually her true first initial. Interestingly, his friends, he published A Grief Observed anonymously, and his friends recommended it to him as, oh, you might relate to this person's account of how he got over the death of a partner. I have quite a lot to say about that actually, and I wrote down a lot of quotes from it because I found a lot of them very, very moving. And it's interesting because the death of his wife, for him as somebody who was very, very strongly a Christian man, didn't only leave him with bereavement, but it left him with an entire question about his faith. So I might return to that one in terms of a more in-depth review. So I read that on a night shift. Somebody had left it, somebody had actually donated it, I think quite a few years ago, to the unit where I work. I think because of relevance to grief and so on. And I was on a night shift, I was supposed to be doing some work, I think, and I found it and I read it. Or it might have been instead of reading the saga. But yeah, anyway, it was good. Then the next thing that I finished, was the play Nine Night by Natasha Gordon. If you were interested in hearing more about that, I read this one because of Black History Month, and I read it with my mum Roz at Scallydandling about the books, and we did a full discussion of that play for our series discussing drama, which you can find over on Roz's channel. I will try to link these things below at some point when I'm not rushing to get a bus. Yeah, and that was great, and I think it's one that I would love to see, hopefully, if it ever comes back into theatres. Again, fitting with the theme of grief, because it's about the aftermath of a woman's death in the traditions that they have. And then the next thing that I finished was Southern Horrors by Ida B. Wells, which was a very short extract that I read on Serial Reader that was very peculiar in many ways, but also like a very interesting historical document almost. So Southern Horrors is Ida Wells's discussion of lynching in the South, and I believe it was written, I should have checked this, but just prior to the turn of the century into the 20th century. And it started in a way that was very discordant for a modern reader, because it started with her discussing how basically discrediting a lot of people who have made accusations of rape. And I think, like, with reason, because she was saying that a lot of white women might have been accusing black men of raping them because they didn't want to admit to actually, you know, having a formal relationship with that person when they became pregnant with their lover's child. So using rape and lynching as a way of avoiding the social stigma of actually having an acknowledged relationship, interracial relationship. But yeah, in the kind of context of the news that we're having at the moment, it was almost quite uncomfortable to read somebody clearly accusing people of falsely accusing people of rape. But then as the essay went on, it kind of went into other aspects more, and it was really, yeah, it was fascinating, and just like a window into just the way that society worked at that point in time, and the way that justice worked or didn't work. Yeah, that it kind of explained to me, excuse me, a lot of the things that I've read from that area from quite a few decades later on, things like To Kill a Mockingbird or Light in August, but it explained a lot of the racial dynamics in those novels, having that older historical context, and kind of it gave me a bit more of an understanding of the long-standing tensions around interracial relationships, which are themes in those books. So yes, that was a very short thing that I managed to read. Then the next thing, I don't know whether, like, do you count books like this in your reading wrap-ups, top 10 at Naples and the Amalfi Coast? Because I've read all of it, so it's like it's a book that I've read, but it's not exactly like a work that you can critique. So yeah, I read top 10 Naples and the Amalfi Coast because we are going to Naples in May. You know, fingers crossed if certain viral issues settle down slightly. And yeah, if you've been to Naples and you have any recommendations, let me know, but this has got me very excited for the trip. The next thing that I finished, and the final thing that I finished so far in February, obviously we have like 2 days left, so you know, is the Saga of the People of Laxardal. I didn't read Volsungs' tale, which was also included in this, and I read this for Saga Long. I've made 2 videos about it. I would recommend it, but not as much as I would recommend the Volsunga saga, which is the final saga that I'm reading for Saga Long, which I will be reviewing on Saturday. I have not finished this yet, but I have 4 long bus journeys today and tomorrow, so hopefully I will get through all of it then. And then moving on to just briefly cover things that I am currently reading. I'm still reading Neil Gaiman's Neverwhere. I'm reading it as an audiobook. I would say that of all of the audiobooks that I've listened to since starting using Audible, I use Bo's account, so I only get the books that he's decided to spend his credits on. This is the one that I've least wanted to listen to. I tend to only listen to it if I'm walking to work, which is like an hour's walk, and I think, oh yeah, I'll put an audiobook on, I'll get the exercise, I'll get the book as well, but I normally get the bus to work, so that doesn't often happen. I'm enjoying it. It doesn't have that, oh, I want to listen to it every moment that I can, that other audiobooks, even when they've been rereads, have had for me. But yeah, I love the world, and I'm just waiting for a bit more of the plot to emerge, I think. I think I'm about 3 or 4 hours in. Then the other thing that I am currently reading, apart from the Volsunga saga, is The Hunger Games, and I believe we are chapter 26, which might be the last or the penultimate chapter. So I think that we'll finish this weekend. I'm reading this together with Bo, and then we will start reading Catching Fire, which is the next one. It's just part of our ongoing rereading together books that are fun to read aloud. And yeah, it's a really good book. Interestingly, the pace of our reading massively slowed as we got into the later chapters. I think because we know the ending, so some of the tension is gone, and a lot of the more interesting kind of character development and world development is in the first 2/3 of the book, and the end it gets like just a bit more drama. But yeah, still very much enjoyable. And I've been recording for 10 minutes and 15 seconds, so thank you very much for watching. I hope you all have like a lovely day and that you're reading lovely things and that you had a lovely reading month in February. And take care. Thank you for watching. Bye.